pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tom Ahern, absent. Ken Dunbar, present. Barb Garber,
Here.
John Locke,
Here.
Ken Riley, John Terrace, absent. Steve Weaver,
Here.
Kurt Martyr, Bart Dunsmore.
Here.
Okay. Can I have a motion to excuse the absences?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Alright, the absences have been excused. Next up is adoption or amendment of agenda. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add or remove from the agenda?
No.
Just a question, when do we have, Alan and Phil coming, is that, I don't wanna make them sit here through the meeting, I don't know
The rescinding of recommendations should be relatively quick. We can probably remove the RRC program. Tom wanted to discuss that, but since he's not here, we won't discuss that.
What is the RRC program?
Redevelopment Ready Community, I brought it up last
Okay.
November. If we look into the program and become compliant with their standards, we get access to
So we're gonna delete that from today's?
from today's
from the
We're gonna
agenda?
move it?
today's agenda. Yep. And then the rescind recommendation should be quick, and then during review, Memphis Meadows Phase 1 too. I think we could open the floor to Phil and Alan.
Okay, well, I'll move that we wanna table that. Review of the RRC program. Correct.
Okay,
So
so
we need to do
accept the agenda as present, or accept the agenda and table the RRC program until the following month.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So the recommendations 23-24-3 and 23-24-9 were the 6 recommendations we made when Melnick Nutt was present, specifically adjusting the building height, the road width, the rear setback, and we were going to rescind them so we can do it in more, so we can just have more discussion about it and do it and make sure we have all the proper meetings and stuff before we make any such recommendations.
I'll make a motion that we rescind that recommendation 23-24-3 to 23-24-9.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Did you skip those? Did you skip
I skipped
Yeah.
meeting
all of
minutes.
these?
Yeah, I totally did. I just was so tunnel focused on that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Approval of
Yeah.
meeting minutes from July 8th, 2024. We just passed that out to everyone. Yep. Does anyone see anything that they would like to amend?
Looks good to me.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from July 8th, 2024 as presented.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Citizen comments regarding agenda and non-agenda items. Jim Fields and Tina Manzik have both signed up. Do either of you prefer to go first? Sure. Okay. Please try to limit comments to about 5 minutes.
Try to keep it at like
3.
3, okay, thank you.
somewhere in there, so get through the night fast. So Jim Fields, 80263 Bell River Road. I'm sure everybody's kind of seen my compilations of data, correspondences I've sent to the Planning Commission, I've sent to the City Council. I'm sure it's made its way to Mr. Francis, on observations on being a taxpayer, property owner here, and also having a team of people, including my attorneys and people at the city and in Macomb County. And we've looked at the deeds and we got a lot of observations and notes, and we try to pass that information along. So since I've been coming to the meetings, it's kind of a broken record. It looks like there's some people here tonight that may be addressing some of these things in an official manner and looking at them. So I'm looking forward to that. I know that when I went down to the county and I checked with the Register of Deeds, again, I pointed out before, there's been no amendments to the master deed filed originally with this project. The project is inaccurate to what it is now. There's portions of phase 1 that were to be built, still not built. Again, to be the dead horse. Your drainage and stuff like that is the first thing that goes into sub-projects. And here we are, we're still talking about drainage and erosion on weekly meetings or monthly meetings with other citizens. You know, the detention, what it's doing back there. So again, you get your property owners and your citizens showing up and trying to give you input, and you're not getting the input from the developer or the builder. Comments from the builder or the builder's representatives have been counter to what members of the council or anybody else has stated. So, you know, again, just a lot of things. So hopefully the city looks at things and does things right and makes sure you're doing the black and white right. Your public hearings, your notices. I've done requests. I realize I know what the laws state, and I'm a black and white guy, as you guys can tell, and I push it out there. And I'm just raising my hand to get the city to pay attention to this stuff, because if it's not me, somebody else may do it, and I'm not the kind of person that wants to burn my house down. I live here, I'm a taxpayer here. You know, the last thing I want to do is do that. I hope everybody understands that. Whether we agree or disagree, it's going to happen on things. But I have no intention to light that match. That's an absolute last resort thing. But there may be other people that will light that match and don't care. And that's kind of why make sure you guys are covered so that doesn't happen. I prefer not to go that route myself, but if I have issues with, say, the developer, the builder that come down the road, unfortunately, the first steps are, you know, filing through the city to get to them and all pass, you know, are intertwined the two. So trying to separate yourselves from that would be nice. I would prefer not to do that. So that's it. It's just quick and easy. So.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Tina, would you like to speak?
I would like to agree with Jim. I think rescinding things, as you guys are doing, are showing good faith, and I appreciate that. I know I've stood up here and bantered about things, and I'm not going to tonight. I'm gonna say thank you for getting the grass cut. I'm gonna say thank you to Bart for putting up things to keep our citizens safe, because that's what matters. I'm going to stick up for our newcomers on Bell River, because they are the ones that are paying the higher taxes. They are the ones that are supporting the city more than most. I think listening to them and welcoming them with a good presence and an honest faith and transparency is important. I'm gonna say it took months to get the developer to cut grass. It took my husband to call him at home. It wasn't this tall. It was 6 feet tall in some areas. It's starting to be to the point of it's over our ordinance. And I know that some people at the table may disagree with me about what our ordinance says, but there's a state law about maintaining grass. And let's just not talk about laws, let's talk about common sense. I'd like to believe that I have common sense and I cut my grass. And I'm going to be, I don't want to let my grass grow 6 feet tall, but I am that girl that will. And I don't want to do that to my neighbor. And that's what the do feel really bad for her. I mean, she has to be feeling pretty bad, but
Heather,
I think that's her name, yeah.
I think that he did swing back there.
Okay. I've been gone for 4 or 5 days, so
Last time I looked, it still was up over the fence, but.
I hope it is, so,
I know, but he
because
was made aware
we need to be neighborly.
that was skipped. Not intentionally maybe, but the enforcement officer was made aware of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry. You had different notes.
Do we have any communications to accept on file?
Will we get this one today?
That is just for information only, it was just a bit of synopsis later on, we get discussing some condo stuff, just to highlight a few points from Mr. Beal's stuff of mine, and just trying to zero in on a few of the main issues, so we can maybe resolve a few of those. I mean, there's an awful lot of material that's been presented over the last month, 2 months. So I just did that for a quick review for people. That was just stuff I pulled out myself, that I just want to try to remind myself and focus what are some of the main things we need, prioritizing, action plan. So the rule is just for background information only, and I just got that done today. So if you want to add that in tonight, I don't know if we need to do that, but I just wanted everybody to, like share, research.
Well, it's just information.
Yeah, just information.
Alright, well, if we have no communications, we're skipping past new business, formally rescind recommendations, because we did that out of order, but we're jumping to unfinished business, review Memphis Meadows Phase 1 and 2, and we'll open up the floor to Bill and Alan as well to advise us on this. We really just wanted all parties present at the same time, so we can have a discussion and all of us feel like we're on the same page. I provided Alan with the letters that you had drafted to Mr. Dunsmore. I did not have them at the time of the packet generation, so we have those, but
These?
yes, those.
Yeah, I got a copy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
they
good.
were in my packet. All the
Okay.
letters from DOJ.
Good.
Yep.
They were in my packet.
That's 3 separate letters.
Yep.
I believe it's 5 separate letters.
Maybe more.
Three for phase 1, 2 for phase 2. So sorry, I lost my train of thought with that. In regards to the meetings that you have held with Mr. Dunsmore, and the review letters, that's all there is to say about that, right? Like, there's nothing in there that we would, like, it's just
Review,
looking
the
through
third
it.
review of it.
More,
I got quickly go over it, I looked at it today, because I already have it.
yeah.
File.
I'm more just talking about letter 1 and 2 of phase 2. When you look at,
I'd say 1 and 2, again, it was reviewed 3 times, and each time things should have been corrected, the way I understand it.
Let's run this the date at the top, these letters that you called them out.
I unfortunately left mine.
You don't have them.
Yes, I'm so sorry, I left mine
Here,
entire
here,
packet.
yeah, so many of them. Dates are all right, all the left-hand ones, how we May of this year, or April this year, and they're all, so they all look the same now.
I know
So we have-
number 3, for example, they're talking about,
And that's dated May 3rd, 2021, that letter.
this one is, yeah.
Okay, so this is for phase 1, right? May 3rd, 2021.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at March or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think we're ready.
Well, it's titled Memphis Meadows Site Condominiums.
The entire project is a condominium parcel, with some of them being single-family residential and some of them
Yes.
being,
Yeah.
multiple family.
I did see a comment regarding the storm drainage, we recommend that these easements be provided prior to issuing building permits for any of the individual units. Okay, I'm not aware of receiving easements prior to. I have easements for water main, and I have easements for the sewer mains. I don't seem to have on file as easements for storm. But see, we're not taking on the responsibility of the pond. We're only gonna be taking responsibility, outside that parameter as a city. So that pond and there's storms, if I remember right, with all their storm sewer, in this case, which would be, north of the pond. And to the condo is gonna be the responsibility of
It's private.
yeah, it's privately owned.
So then other than ensuring that they're going to be built and that the easements are in place, we don't need to worry about.
The easement should be part of the master deed once it's complete.
Okay.
There have been no easements filed with the city of Memphis thus far. That's not, just to be clear. They've been after one since 2021. We don't have any easements filed at the city that I'm aware of, unless I'm mistaken.
There is a master deed, I'm sorry to interrupt, there is a master deed, correct?
Yes, very sparse one, just covering phase one in the county. I looked at it myself.
One thing I wanted to say, because I was talking with Phil before the meeting, I've got, and I'm not trying to waive any attorney-client privilege, but I provided a memo to you, and I'm not certain as I sit here today whether phase two will actually be subject to a second master deed or maybe an amendment to the first. And I just wanted that to be clear. It doesn't change like the approval process, but it may be that the entire parcel is covered under the original master deed. We're gonna have to do some sorting out of that. But a lot of times master deeds will have easements included in it. So.
Regarding phase one, though, I just again, from what this, given my understanding of this, it's been requested a number of times and been pointed out that that was lacking and that should be addressed. And as far as I know, it has not been, as far as from the record of the city. That would include the swales in between. There's 2 or 3, Jim, I don't know, there's 2 or 3 swales that are running east and west into the back one that runs north and south.
Yeah, so
There's like 4 basic areas that need to be defined that the city, I don't see any reason why it can't be defined, whether, and they basically have been constructed, whether they've been constructed properly, maybe it's another subject to interpretation, but we have not received those easements. We don't have those on record. They were submitted and they're floating out there somewhere. I haven't been able to put my hands on them, and neither did I see anything like that associated with the master deed work number 1231 filed down at the Macomb county investigated. It just shows the original 9 houses, which are now actually 7 on Bell River, and 6 that are on Pratt Road because the old farmhouse was cut out. It took up 2 lots. It's not been amended to show that, but the drawings that we have, it just shows 9 lots on there. So, that's where I question whether that wasn't really done. And again, the easements, to my knowledge, I can't pin them down. I don't see why they wouldn't be on record if it seems like it's a small detail that people would like to see addressed so that we can move past that to some of the other issues that are involved.
And we're still specifically talking about the drainage easements?
We're talking about phase one now specifically, yes, because as Mr. Francis says, we got kind of 2 kettles boiling here, phase one, phase two, but we're gonna have to deal with both of them, but this pertains to phase one. So I'm talking, all of this is stuff that I've encountered in my research in phase one.
Because if we look at the meeting of April 28th, 2021, meeting minutes where the motion is made, Motion by Wilson, seconded by Martyr, to recommend to the Memphis City Council that the Memphis Planning Commission approves Phase 1 of the Memphis Meadows Development Project contingent on the following. A 5-foot wide sidewalk be located in front of the 6 houses on the north side of Pratt Road. A separate and independent building sewer service shall be provided for every building. Drainage easement documents drafted and provided to the city of Memphis for both rear yard and initial phase of the retention pond as provided on the plans.
Yeah, and that's dated April 28, 2021. So there's been, say, several mentions of that subsequent to that date, but no action on it that I'm aware of. So we've been asking for that for quite some time. Or maybe conditional, actually. But we kind of let that slip through the cracks, I think. So it's one thing that we'll have to remedy.
So what's the solution for the drainage problem now? The yards are getting flooded, they didn't build the first phase of the pond. What do we have to do to get that done now? I mean, sounds like there was a recommendation that it be started and done before construction on one of these pages here. So it still isn't done. Yards are flooding, the streets, everything's, what's holding that up? Why isn't it done? What can we do to get it done? Why isn't the builder doing it? Has it been addressed? Did somebody talk to them about it and get a straight answer from them? Seems like they haven't been fulfilling the requirements of these letters dated on the 2021. Like they've really done not much of anything.
I wish I could answer that for you, but I haven't found the answers to that. I can tell you that, again, looking at that master deed, one thing I can offer is, and I brought that in one of these packets over the last few months, when it shows that we proposed 6 houses. That detention pond is in that drawing.
Right.
It was in that drawing, yes.
Yes, it was. And as I noted to Jason Sokol when we were at council, whatever, we've had 5 meetings recently in council, special meetings. There is a note on that page that said all things on this page will be built. So
And I remember something about, they showed the detention pond, but I thought that wasn't to be constructed until phase 2, the condominium, came into play.
No, this is 2 phases. Phase 1 retention pond, and to be
Yeah.
completed and excavated upon
Correct.
phase 2.
But I
So there
just
should be something at
remember-
least started.
correct.
There's just something maybe I'm wrong,
So I think-
I read that part, I know what you're
Correct.
referring to, but the way I read that is, all right, we're gonna do phase 1,
Yeah,
and if at
This is
such
all
time,
phase.
because we hadn't even rezoned that land from,
oh, great, you're correct.
at such time as, down the road we wanna do this, fine, then there's gonna be a phase 2 that would have to kick in to address the additional specs of the runoff from phase 2 construction. So I took that to read like, okay, well, I don't know if they're gonna make the walls high or whatever, I'm not an engineer, I don't know how they do that. But, yeah, it was split into contingent, but that to me looks, again, as a layman, a detention pond and all the specs on how it's gonna drain, under Pratt Road, the way that goes across the street and out back to the Ashley Creek, which I know very well because I live right there. I've watched it drain and be plowed and planted for over 20 years. I went and looked, sediment is all filled in on what the natural floodplain, if you call it, a mini floodplain, the way that piece of land operated. It's not there anymore. When I was looking at Heather's yard, sediment filled in, cattails are growing, so even the natural channel, so it does not flow out across Pratt Road, because from my house, I will see a lake in my neighbor's yard. Actually, Tim Zimmerman that lives next door. When we have those heavy rains, it's just part of the natural flow.
So what can we do to push along what they should have been doing all along, from what I can tell? Is there something we can do to,
Well, it's unclear to me. The easements, yes, we can require them to the extent that they don't exist to get the easements. It's unclear to me whether the plans approved, based on the discussions, contemplated this detention pond now or later.
And here's another thing, to backfill the housing there, they actually were pushing dirt from where the condo site is. So we're looking right now at something that was under construction or hasn't really began. They haven't began laying pipe, they haven't did a detention pond yet. Anything you do see back here is much lower than when the project started. Because they needed to use they used that earth, existing earth there to backfill around the homes.
From where? Where do they use the earth from?
From
Phase
the
two?
proposed, well, yeah, it'd be from phase 2 property. Yeah,
I can tell you exactly where they got it from and what they used it for. I lived right there and watched them change the topography of the land. They used a backhoe and backed a bulldozer, yeah.
Yeah.
So a bulldozer, I don't know
That's
those
it,
types
yeah.
of things.
That's
but
why that's required.
used
I'm speculating
machinery
that was on this undeveloped parcel.
to
that's all that
scrape
Yeah.
dirt was coming
and
from.
change the land, and if you go out there, there's actually a drop off. That's
Yeah, I
where,
can see that.
yeah.
that's where
So-
Bell River runs now, it's back
And-
there.
And that's the situation right now. I can't speak right now with the lay of the land. Whatever they do back there, if they're just gonna be laying pipe and putting dirt on top of it, or they still gotta dig further down to lay their pipe for sewer and water, they removed a lot of earth. Hey, it was there for the taking, they owned it. But now that means there's an awful lot of earth that's gotta be brought in.
Because they provide you with typography maps, right? Specifically indicating at the height that the ground will be at and the height of.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is it typical to take dirt from one portion of a project and just push it to a?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
You don't need to get soil permits for that?
They would
So-
need a soil erosion control permit.
I mean, if you're digging basements out of phase 1, yeah, you can move that dirt around, but if you're altering an unconnected piece with that development, the way I was reading it, you need to get
You need a
permits,
soil
but I don't
erosion
think.
Well, I
I
saw
don't
a
think
road
that happened.
and I'm not,
Or
Is that-
the sediment fencing that should have gone up to protect the waterways.
That's
That
pretty
drainage.
typical, yeah.
Is the permit something that would be easily pullable for us to discover?
Yeah, should, if they
Yeah.
pull one, it should be on record in Macomb County Department of Public Works.
What department would that be, Bill?
Department of Public Works.
So I have a question here, because I'm looking at like 4 different documents where, and this is all going to the drainage easement. You know, talking about the storm drainage and the easements. Is any of this been passed on to the developer? In any way that, you know, we would need to get this documented and have the easements put in? Have we put a request to the, not to the builder, but to the developer? Because I see that, like I said, at least 4 different places where this is mentioned. Does
I've
anybody
had
know?
various discussions as being kind of a quasi liaison, you know, I actually had
Right.
an exchange with Mark Skiba today on something unrelated, so. Yeah, these things have been brought informally, but as we are here tonight, without having a very clear, solid idea, I hate to be throwing more mud in the water until I know exactly what is required, what's germane to
I
phase
mean,
one.
this is just
So I
one
wanna-
point, this is just one point that I'm touching on. is the
Yeah,
fact that
I'm just trying to-
we need to, you know, notify them that we need this. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's over here.
Well, I think when we get done with this process, that's gonna be quite easy to do, we'll have a list.
Okay, just,
And,
that was
once
just my
we
question.
all agree on what that list should contain, because I don't want to just keep chasing our tail.
Right.
Because there's a lot of questions that, you know, not all of us understand, or we need professional help to answer.
I think whatever conclusion we come to, though, it should be a very formal letter that we can easily have on file, because I think a lot of our communications to this point have been informal, which there's, you know, you want to work with the person, but we also need to be able to hold ourselves accountable and be able to say, this is what's been said, this is when it was said. I mean, at least that's my opinion. Alan, do you think that?
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we should make sure there's a clear line of communication between us and them. Okay, this one's on file.
see, a lot of this communication was copied to City Hall, came to me, and now, and as we discuss these, or should have discussed these, who was the charge of passing this information, I could have swore that we had, the developer and contractor are at various meetings, but I get the two confused, council meetings and planning meetings, so,
I was gonna say, these BMJ reports, they were the first I had seen this, and it I don't know, I don't wanna say caught me off guard, because there's nothing surprising about them, but also the fact that they existed was surprising.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because I felt like communications or conversations were being had without us as a commission as a whole, which is not something we do.
yeah, and might be shame on me that I assumed things were being passed.
Yeah,
I mean, I look at all these from BMJ, and I think that I had seen 2 of these.
yeah.
Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Right.
and others I've seen 2.
So, in addition to creating clear communications, we also need to work on distribution of our communications. I don't know.
And yeah, and right now, I mean, for me, I hate to say it's one of those, we're in the middle of going through transitioning from one email to the other,
Yeah.
where I don't know which one to check, because I have a Comcast email and I have an Outlook email along with my other 3 emails, and it's one of those, like, where's it coming from?
Yeah.
Where's it going to? And, you know, I mean, there was an email that I sent out, and I was sure that it went to Jason Sofa, and he didn't get it because when it's one of those, just start typing the name, and then the addresses come up, and it just says Jason Sofa, then I talked to him, he's like, well, I didn't get it. He's like, oh, wait, it went to his .gov, and he's still using his KW
Right.
whatever, and it's like,
I still don't have that .gov.
you're not using the .gov?
In fact, yeah, I try it, at least once a week, and nothing comes to me if I
Right,
try it out.
this is, like I said, this is, you know, the transition right now is kind of insane, because,
Yeah.
Hey Kurt, can we do something to have any and all official city documentation coming from BMJ be sent to you, maybe Donna and or
how
Amber
about
and
more
whoever?
to Donna to distribute, because of the fact that she has a grasp more of like, okay, well,
That'd be fine.
Mark's still using the .com.
But not just one
I don't
person
know
on
what
it in
Steve's
case it
using
gets
now,
lost.
I believe Donna was CC'd on all of these communications. It says at the bottom, CC Donna.
I don't have it in here.
And, you know, and Donna might be picking and choosing, and okay, well, this is gonna go to DPW and to,
Right.
you know, so.
Yeah, that's not the way it should be, it should go to everybody.
Sometimes you carbon copies over, or send also to Donna, her being the clerk and all that.
Right.
You know,
Right. And that's why I say Donna just probably forward some of these to me and some of that I was copying on. And I think for the most part, it's stuff that's been pushed out to me, but.
I
it's-
thought they all went to the DPW, and that Donna got a carbon copy of it,
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
just to be clear.
And what are there steps we could take in
Talk about
creating, clear discussion between us, but not discussion that violates the Open Meetings Act?
Well, yeah, sure, I mean, to the extent that Phil or I are given direction, he can communicate, directly with, the developer and council here at the last meeting we were at, I believe. And that actually is not abnormal, you know, for those, it's actually part of the process, not so much the outside of commission, but it's normal as the site plan and the review process is to sit down with a representative or two and try and figure it out so that you're not at every meeting with a minor change, you know, you can get some sort of idea. But we can, going forward, I think it's a good idea to create a list of what our issues are. It can come from me, I'm fine with that. Send it to the developers council, and maybe have a meeting with 1 or 2 members of the planning commission and the developer and the council, and just like these are the you know, punch list items, so to speak, if we want to talk about that for phase 1, and these are the list items for phase 2, and let's start crossing these. I mean, easements is pretty simple. You know, that's what we got to check
So,
on.
so I guess it's one of those where we need to look at, excuse me, setting up almost an advisory for planning and having council advisory you know, as long as we're not commingling, you know, we get people that are strictly planning, and then through their strictly city council, we can converse across lines, come up with questions that we're looking for answers and send them to Al, and
Yeah, and obviously any decisions that this body makes has to be at a meeting open to the public.
Right.
But the idea is to make these things efficient, right? And,
Yeah.
And always having a meeting, you know, when you have a single question, like, doesn't always result in the most efficient use of time.
I mean, you know, we're not a professional board, we're not a bunch of professionals here, we're the town folks. And we're on a big learning curve here, we
Yep.
wanna make it right.
Yep.
And it's just, for us, this has been a big project, a lot of stuff going on here. And, you know, here, when we started all this, we had almost all new planning. You know, so it's getting into this process, it's not that we're trying to, you know, pull wool over anybody's eyes, and hopefully we're not getting wool pulled over our eyes. And then we just keep moving forward, making the right decisions on where we're going. I mean, it's like, you know, the question is, you know, Master Deed 1, does it cover all of it?
We need to get a copy of it and take a look and compare. I'll give you an example. Bigger cities with a planning department, you're sitting down with the planning department before you come to planning commission, right? You're kind of hammering out these sort of issues. So it's just you get the size of the city, and then it's just not always the easiest thing to do, but we can make it work.
Can I?
That's up to them.
Can I add one thing for Mr. Francis though? Just, and this is a $3,500 answer regarding the master deed. So the master deed, the way it's written and the way it's drawn, the way it's recorded with the county, phase 1 is your 15 units, which we've discussed. They've not made any amendments. We all know that, but that's 1. So when you look at the master deed and you read through the contract and the disclosures, phase 2, the future development area, needs not be built. So that part of that is written as an expandable condominium. So, but it does not need to be built. So you have to look at the 15 units, what they call phase 1, as being the only active project associated to that master deed, because that's what's legally active. There have been no amendments. To discuss that in 21, they were going to go to multifamily before the zoning was changed in 23. That's a whole different issue that we brought up, and you have that stuff. But the master deed as filed is just those 15 lots with the detention pond complete, because this doesn't ever need to be built, and that's part of the contract. So that's a real black and white answer to just the initial qualifier to really understand.
When we're speaking of communications, Alan, did you have a chance to review the most recent letter we sent? Chairperson Ahern had thought about not sending it, but I do believe it was sent by Amber, our deputy clerk.
I believe so. Is it undated?
Yes.
I did review that.
Would you think that is a sufficient?
Yeah, now my computer's locking up, so I'm trying. Give me 1 second here, because I'm trying to pull it up. But I do recall reviewing an undated letter. Bear with me here 1 second.
Why didn't we get a copy of that? Why-
That was the letter we agreed on in
Did we get a copy of that in our
Yes,
packet?
from June 6th.
So I don't know, it might have been the one.
No, you were there. I'll have to look through my papers. I don't remember seeing an updated letter.
We voted on and sent it in on June 6th. Was the,
It might be in my, I don't have my June, but, okay.
I'm still frozen.
But basically, the gist of that letter, it's going from memory, so I know there was 3 or 4 or 5 points on there. Basically, the preliminary plan had not taken place, correct? Preliminary report
Yeah,
regarding
I
phase
got
2.
it now. So, you know, sorry.
No, that's good.
Reviewed the substance of it is cities reviewed your site plan, police and find it not to be in compliance with city's code of ordinances. site plan that complies with our code. Additionally, you may seek variances for, including but not limited to, and it lists items regarding setbacks, rear, side, building height. Alternatively, city council is considering updating our code, and they want to see the outcomes of changes, if any at all, if they may affect the zoning regulations. Is that the letter?
That's one.
So that went out, I mean, is what it is. It went out. Is that, if that's an accurate recitation, I don't know if I have the minutes here from the planning commission meeting.
I don't believe I emailed you the June 6th.
So I don't know if that's like an accurate representation, but generally, I would ask, and I'm assuming the developer would, for some communication about what didn't meet the ordinance requirements, and maybe we are talking about the variances, but there's a special procedure for dealing with that too. So, I don't know the extent that the developer would know what the, sort of what to fix.
Okay.
And my thought, bear with me 1 second, we'll pull back on my notes. B&J had a review dated April 22nd. I mean, we're talking about phase 2 now, by the way, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
B&J had a review dated April 22nd, which found the plans to be acceptable with my recollection.
And when, I actually did want to ask you about that, Phil. When you're reviewing the plans, are you reviewing them to our code? Are you comparing them to our code?
Generally, we are reviewing the plans for engineering, to meet engineering standards. We might touch a little bit on zoning related stuff, but that's not our focus.
So for the most part, you would not be looking at the setbacks, you wouldn't be looking at the building height?
Correct. That's generally handled by a planner.
Okay, I thought that might be the case. And then Mr. Wilson provided us with a drawing 2 months ago in which he illustrated to us that the project has a right-of-way of 45 feet. Is that something that came from you, or is that something that would have come from the?
Well, there is no right-of-way for the streets within the development. Okay, it's a condominium. So all that we're looking for is that the road width is sufficient for two-way traffic, or two-way traffic plus parking if that's what they're proposing. There's no dedicated right-of-way.
It wouldn't even be a special form of easement, because our code does call for a easement of 60 feet, which it called a right-of-way.
Well, again, usually, an easement is dedicated to some entity.
Yeah.
So is it dedicated to the city, whereby you would be taking ownership over these instruments within this?
It would be a common element of the condominium, I would believe, so that the condominium as a whole would own the right-of-way
Correct.
which I would it's not a right-of-way like you said, but it would own the common element easement of the road. And are you saying that's 45 feet in these drawings, or has that not been contemplated?
I don't recall right offhand what the width on it was, but again, with a road, you're usually looking at either 10 foot, 11 foot, or 12 foot wide lanes, depending on traffic loading, plus curb and gutter or sidewalk, whatever the case may be. But again, being that it's not a dedicated city-owned street, wouldn't have the same requirements.
It would be kind of ownership, basically.
It would be common ownership, that's correct.
Yes, the city isn't.
So it would be a common element to the condominium, but, so they basically would be dedicating an easement to themselves, the way I would, if that's what you're driving at.
Because
Right.
it wouldn't be a city street at all.
No, right, but when our code requires that they set aside a certain easement, and then if they don't set aside a certain.
Is that inside the condominium ordinance, the subdivision ordinance, or is it just in the general part of the ordinance?
All three. It's in the condominium ordinance, it defines It defines a public, and private street easement within the condominiums, and it requires that we have it.
So if they create an easement, it could be the condominium's easement, not the city's easement.
The letter 422 pretty much states, whether we're not talking about dimensions so much, but that same letter we just referred to, the recommendation being a water main easement exhibit has been provided acceptable, sanitary easement presented. And then also, let's not forget, there's a storm sewer and stormwater detention. The applicant is preparing
Right.
a stormwater detention, and it says, yes, we feel, we're recommending everything's good, but outstanding documents noted above should be provided to the city. Now, I don't know if they have it or not, I don't know, I'm pretty sure the stormwater one and detention have not, or the plan that would accompany that.
I've never seen them. Now, I just want to back up a step. Now, when you're talking about sanitary sewer, and you're talking about water main, those are publicly owned entities.
Those are gonna be our easements.
Those are.
So we have access to them, right?
To the
Bill?
city.
Basically what that's saying, is we have access, if Bart needs to go in there, he can go in there and
Correct.
do something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we're not really talking about the width of the road in this.
We will be maintaining the water system within that and also the sewer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I was clear on that in that letter that we were referencing. That's. But we do have other questions as far as dimensions to go. That's, I think, a whole other can of worms that, might fall on us as a planning commission to get to the bottom of. We'll talk about that later, but. Thank you. So who's gonna generate a list?
Oh, I got a working one.
Thanks for asking my question. I'm trying to keep notes here. But
I do have a question. Storm sewers. If the association, the Congress, they're gonna maintain, oh, by the way, I do have an O&M manual. I gave that to you, that's right. And it looked fine. Who's getting, why is the city gonna have an easement issued to the city if the condo association is owning and gonna be maintaining some storm drains?
In case they don't.
In case they don't, that's correct.
gives you the right to go in and do it.
And that's why.
It does state that, it does state that, you're
I
correct.
think that's in there too,
Yeah,
somewhere in one of
it
these
states, yeah, it
documents.
does, it states it in the O&M,
If they don't behave, we can go in.
yeah, it does state that, if they don't take care of the city.
Drains plugged up and they didn't
At
catch
their
it.
expense.
Bart's going by and he pulled
Basically, you send a letter to them saying there's a problem,
Right.
address it, and if they don't,
Okay.
then you have the right to go in.
Okay. Thank you.
To make one more comment quickly before maybe we're moving on from this, Ken's right here too. In that master deed, again, number 1231 at Macomb County, it does, as Mr. Fields describes it, as Memphis Metal, 15 units. Storm drainage, there's only just one little page on there, but there is one line on there again, which keeps cementing to me that this needs to be done. Storm drainage and water retention system throughout the project. So it's saying those are common elements of phase one, the 15 units. Storm drainage and the water retention system throughout the project. And I gotta interpret that, like the drawings show the pond, it's supposed to be there. We still haven't done a final review of it, which maybe we could bring it up then, but I hate to leave this thing laying out there like for any longer. It's been so many years now, 3 years now.
I think the original intent was that to construct the drainage swale along the rear of the lots, build phase one of the pond, make sure that the outlet's functioning, then when they came back to do the rest of the condominium, to build the remainder of the pond to deal with that.
We did the phase one boundaries?
But that's the way it was presented, if my memory serves me correct. Which
So me address that until at some more of a stage in the future, they decide to go ahead with phase two. That doesn't,
Yeah, well, really, if they build phase
Contradicts
two,
common sense with the
drainage
document.
problem's gonna go away, because it's shown on their current plan, that easement along there is below the detention pond, and that's gonna take care of drainage at the rears of the rear lots, but when that's gonna happen,
and they haven't signed an easement for it, so like I said earlier, that drainage has been completely destroyed. I know it has, because I've watched it.
Well,
20 years old. The city couldn't even go in there and do anything about it. They wanted to dish it out and restore that flow underneath Pratt Road that goes down to Ashray Creek. We don't even have a legal right to do that now. So our hands
Well,
are
we
tied.
never have.
We can't bring any relief to these people who are living amongst the cattails and the mosquitoes for the going on the third season. So that's definitely, I would like that prominently on the list.
Didn't I say throughout the development? Throughout means through the development. We're going through the development, right? Tell me if I'm wrong, I just heard the word throughout.
I'm not sure I can.
If it continues to drain, the drainage should be appropriate during the process of even the single family
Yeah, I think there should have been
dwelling.
sediment fences built in appropriate
Yeah.
places, which normally happens when, I don't care if you're on a 180-degree plane, you're putting up a building, everybody's got their little 3-foot black sediment fences up. Because those weren't there, it's all washed in and filled in. I went and looked at it myself. And I say, I don't see the water flow through like I have.
Our last heavy rainfall, which kind of, we got a lot, and I actually took a drive down there, I was kind of curious to watch it in action, and it was raging pretty good, underneath Pratt Road. It came up and went under and, over by, Tim's property.
That's
It ran through there pretty good, but again, that wasn't, you know, a 3-day rain or even an all-day, but we did get a lot of water.
I've seen nothing close to what I've seen in past years without either lot of records.
Right, right,
You know, it doesn't take too much. You get 2 or 3 days of good rain.
yeah.
Where I can eyeball it, my neighbor's yard is 30 feet, 40 feet across with water.
Yeah, and that's,
For 2 or 3 or 4 days overall. That hasn't been happening. So that's a direct result of impeding that flow, even though some I'm sure it should make it through,
yeah,
but not probably necessary to stop the backyards from turning into a wetland.
over on the Pratt, south of Pratt, where the drainage goes
Yeah,
through
I'm
and
talking
makes it there. Or
I'm talking
behind
about
the
behind
new
the
homes.
existing condo developments now, it's
Right.
turned into a wetland
Oh,
habitat.
yeah,
quite
well,
literally.
Yeah, they were pushing earth, that they didn't follow it and lay more earth behind it, and,
We need more than a year for cattails to spread
Yeah.
out.
Oh, yeah.
And be native, and
Yeah.
they're scattered throughout their
Yeah.
cities, so it's, we're not questioning whether it's happening, it is
it
happening.
is happening.
And there's a reason why it's happening, because it didn't happen before. And the only thing that's changed is
Well, they
they
changed
built these 15 houses,
and took
13
dirt.
houses.
And that's why I see
One
water
lot.
laying, and I don't wanna laugh about it, looking behind, homes from the Pratt view. And all I was seeing is, well, there's a retention pond, it's a whole, what used to be a cornfield, but because they lowered, by moving all that earth to use it for fill.
Speeds up the water flow.
Yeah,
Do we have any other questions for Phil and Alan? I don't wanna take up too much of their time if we're just gonna chit chat.
But we are getting this list together that you started,
Yeah, which,
it's gonna go to them, and then he's gonna send that over to the developer's attorney and the developer, and then they have, what, 30 days, 15 days to answer, or?
now, in specific regards to like one of the things I wrote on my list where it was soil erosion control permit, would we check on the status of that permit before putting that on the
You
list?
can, I can ask him to provide a copy of it in the letter, we do both,
Okay,
if we find out before the.
I remember a discussion with that regarding the soil.
Should be pretty quick for us to be able to find that one out. Call up the DPW. Yeah. be my take.
Okay. And if they just don't bring up phase two, we don't acknowledge it for a bit, or?
Well, I mean, you put a letter to them with the ball in their court.
Right. Okay.
I communicated to Mark Steve today after he did, we texted on it, like I said, the issue was not related, but he did ask, is there any progress? And I stated, we are having a meeting next Tuesday, and it is under review, and I will give you more feedback at that time. So it was communicated to Mark and the developers that we are moving along with this, and that meeting that we're gonna have Tuesday, which we canceled yesterday because we didn't have a quorum, is where we would consider council's advice on some of these other matters, specifically on phase two.
Okay, mind if I ask a question?
Absolutely.
The rescission that was earlier today, was that of either variances or rezonings that were approved? What were-
Variances.
Okay,
You know,
Re-
current RM
The
laws.
rezoning recommendations.
pertaining to this area though, correct? I
Correct.
just wanted to make sure, so.
Yes.
Correct.
Right now, phase two is not zoned and there's no recommendation, there's not zoned properly for phase two, and there's no recommendation to rezone properly for phase two.
It is, the property is properly zoned for phase two. It is
These
multiple
were
family.
variances for
It's for variance.
building height,
Okay.
setbacks.
It's for the
setbacks.
variances that are referenced probably in that letter.
Yes.
Yes.
There was a recommendation to approve those, that's been rescinded, and.
We were recommending changing the ordinances.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a recommendation for a text amendment to the ordinance, which would have alleviated their need for variances.
For every single instance.
That's been rescinded,
Yes.
and it was never approved by council.
Correct.
Okay, just wanna make sure I understood. where-
Yes, it was tabled to council, like that, we sent it, and now it's gone.
And that we found 6 specific instances. There might be others that we missed, but there were 6 specific ones that we had found.
Yeah, and I just need a list, right? I'll include language that covers us if it's not exhaustive, because, you know, I understand how this process is going, but we at least need a list on phase one of things that need to be finished, right?
Right.
Things that were approved and haven't been done, and potentially things that we may have issues with respect to what's going on, regarding phase one. And I would look at it as an effort to put them on the spot of, like, get us the stuff we know, and then let's start a dialogue on how we actually move forward to get problems that we have the ability to enforce, how we get them fixed. The answer about how long you have sort of depends on what items are on the list, right? I gotta give them a reasonable amount of time. And some things can be done quickly and some things, you know, realistically.
I just didn't know if we'd get the answers before the next meeting, that's all I was looking at.
Maybe. When Ken sends me the list, let me know the date for the next meeting, when you send me, assume you're gonna send me an email, just let me know the date, and, we'll make sure that, will we be looking to have them at the next meeting, would that be the idea?
If you would advise that, we could extend the invitation.
Let's see what the list is, and then we'll make a decision.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll generate the list. Do we want to generate it right now so it's done, or are we just trusting that I have a firm grasp on it? And
I
we,
trust you'll draw up a comprehensive one, and you'll get it to Mr. Francis.
Okay. All right, then, if we have nothing else we'd like to discuss in terms of Michigan Meadows, we'll move on. All right, thank
Thanks,
you, John and Phil. I
Please,
really appreciate your time.
No, myself.
Is there a restroom? Right there, thank you.
Next up is review master plan. Do we want to table that discussion?
I'm gonna suggest that we table it, you know, Tom's got so much on his computer, he's not here.
Yeah.
You know,
So do you make that motion?
I'll make a motion to table the review of the master plan.
All in favor?
Thank you very
All
much.
opposed? Motion passes.
You gotta wait.
And then in regards to the review chapter 93 animal ordinances, do we also wish to table that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, because I have absolutely nothing on that, I don't know what anybody I make a motion to table unfinished business number 3.
Do we have a second?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, and then yearly, we have to appoint a new chairperson, vice chairperson, secretary, and set our schedule for the year. We can re-elect current officers, or we can.
I'll make a motion that we keep our current officers there. Mr. Ahern is our chairperson. You are our vice chair, correct?
I am the secretary. We have,
And the
Who's the
secretary.
vice chair is currently empty. We do not have anyone filling that position.
I have now.
And it's, all you have to do is run the meeting if Tom's not here. I mean, currently we've had Ken filling in that spot, and I mean, it's one of those, I don't know how false is precedent.
Yeah, I could do that if you want me to, I guess.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right,
I'll make a motion to recommend John Rock as vice chair.
support.
You're not going anywhere, right, Ken?
I mean, I wouldn't mind not being secretary, but other than
I think that you do a
not an
very
option.
proficient, you do a very proficient job at that, so.
okay,
He's
so
got a motion on the table
yes,
to,
Steve Weaver motions that John Locke be appointed as the vice chair. And Barb Kroger seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, buddy.
Opposed? Motion passes. And then Kurt had a motion to keep the current officers,
Mr. Dunbar.
current officers in their position. Do I have a second?
I'll support that one too.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. For generating meeting schedule, I would assume we'll just do the second Wednesday of every
Second
month.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Did we wanna consider, not having a meeting in December, since that's a busy time and we
Do you wanna
we
move it?
I mean, I think it falls on like the 10th this year, but I know last year we had a problem.
Well, I'd say if we put it on the schedule, and if we have to, put it up, we put it up.
What was that, December?
well, we might be required to have one schedule each month, I don't know if we do.
You know, I mean, there was, when I was on planning, there was times when we were slow, we had nothing going on, we would go months without a meeting.
Yeah, we have one quarterly at times. and,
Yeah.
Our code only requires us to meet 4 times a year. I think it's January, it's every 3rd month, it's January and then every 3
Once a
months.
quarter.
Well, why don't we just leave it and then,
Yeah.
Second Wednesday of every month for the rest of the, through
Yeah.
We might need that, we might not, I mean, if we
Yeah.
don't need it, we can
Right.
skip it.
well, we can
someone making that
decide to
motion?
not have it.
I'll make the motion.
okay. Do I have a second?
Sport.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Alright, and with that, we come to comments from commissioners. Does anyone have any comments that they wish to share with us?
Well, I just want to say that, it's like, this is taking time to get this stuff straightened around. Like I said, we're a board that's all learning. We're all town folk, we're not, we're not attorneys, we're not planners, professional planners, I should say. And I think this board's doing a pretty good job of putting it together. I mean, we're having to do a little backpedaling, but it's gonna move forward in the end. And I just wanna, make a comment to have everybody keep, Larry Wilson and his wife Evelyn in their prayers. Evelyn is not doing well. And I have nothing else.
Yeah, and I believe we all know that this is something we don't run into every day or every 20 years or anything. It's new to everybody, any type of development. I remember one year we had 4 manufactured homes, as I call them, move into town, which was,
That was a big deal.
but they were just going on old, basically old foundations or something. And that was a pretty big deal. We had to watch our house get moved out, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So, no, a condominium, condos, we're were never discussed back in the day.
Yeah.
It was 20-plus years ago that we wrote this ordinance. So.
Yeah, and there was a lot of work that
And
went
again,
into
we
it.
did a boilerplate copy and
Yeah.
hopefully they can fit. And
Right. And yeah, that's, when things are pointed out to us, that's one of them. Because at that time, when it's time for a correction now, that it's brought up.
I got a couple things just real quickly. This pack that I gave everybody here,
yeah,
I'll take a minute to go through it. I got them numbered up in the upper right-hand corner, just so they're aware. First one is just a bunch of bullet points that Mr. Field submitted in his document to the city, and a lot of it touches on things that I also submitted, but I would read through those because this is, for page one, it's some critical stuff. Second page, it's a copy of that master deed that's filed, and if you'll note down there about the storm drainage, and this is what's on file with Macomb County. On page 3, again, you see some reference to storm drains. Again, it's all the background material. Now, I included here too some of the charts that are in our ordinances regarding various things that we've discussed in changing ordinances, road widths, all that. Also preliminary plan requirements, a page here that 150, 109 that we're gonna have to revisit. I think if we get to the point that we're gonna start discussing phase 2, we're gonna have to go back square one and make sure they get an application for a preliminary plan from the city, which to my knowledge was never done. I've asked about that. Page 6, again, storm drains are referenced, keeps coming up, and the page 7 was street types. Now, some of those things, I spoke with Donna today, and Eric, if you want to pipe in, you can. There was a planning person that was, I think maybe we need some help, like from a professional planner. I don't, Eric, they were saying $500 a month or something, and I would like to make a recommendation to city council to maybe try, bring them on for a month, or maybe a 2 months if we need to.
Yeah.
And particularly all the road stuff, because this is in our code, and we need to just have, we can look at it ourselves and say, okay, now we need a professional plan. Or the road commission also, we get their opinions. But all these variables about the road widths and curb to curb and cul-de-sacs, all that, we need to bring some, if we can get somebody come in for $500, just as introductory, I don't see why they wouldn't want to, but we can, as a planning commission, request funds from the council to do that. And if nobody would be opposed to that, I would bring that up at the next council meeting.
Do we make a motion for that right now?
I'd like to bring it to them as a motion from the planning commission that we would like to require, or we're requesting assistance from a professional planner to address some immediate problems we have and to explore the possibilities of bringing in that expertise from time to time when we need it, from services that might be out there that people could offer us. And there's a lot of them. The Michigan State University program's got a lot of contacts, from that class I took a couple of years ago. Ken, you can give you that textbook. So there's a lot of ways to do it, and I think going forward, particularly if we're going to get into phase 2, if we get some of these things nailed down, which again, that's our responsibility, our code, we all know when it's updating. That'd be a good start, and then we kind of got the table set for, we get into more sticky issues with phase 2. Let's bring in some people who deal with this, like Alan said, the planners are dealing with all this stuff before they ever even give it to the planning commission, so they're digging down on it. And that's where we got kind of caught, is we shouldn't know how complex it's going to be. So yeah, I'll make that motion
I'll second it.
to ask city council to request funds for professional planning to review issues related to the condo ordinance. Or rather, related to our broadest way to put that.
Yeah, to our ordinance, who wants specific just a condo, right?
No, it's really the roads I'm concerned with, all that language right now. We're requesting some assistance from a professional planner for various issues in the city code.
I'll support that.
The
Professional.
Professional planner. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
That's all I have.
Nothing here.
I also have nothing.
I just wanna say thanks for the participation from residents. It does help. I know it might have seemed that sometimes it was a little this, but we don't know. So you guys doing your due diligence and kind of filling in,
It's been a big help.
yeah, it does. It kind of puts a different look at it so we can kind of track it down and figure it out. So thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
And taking that into account.
Well, that's hard. That's what we're supposed to simple.
This professional planner you're gonna hire, I'm kinda all for that, but how do you go about determining who is qualified for what we want, so we don't hire someone who has saturation
This
is
is one of those.
specialty is putting flower boxes on rooftops or something in big cities, you know
Eric?
what I mean?
Eric is kind
So
of.
this is the person that Richmond Township uses for all their planning. He's
Okay, so
actually
you have
retired.
someone.
He's actually retiring, and the person that's been his assistant for, I think he said 25 years, she is gonna take over his business, all his clients. So he's not available, but she is. He worked for Mount Clemens for 20 years as a planner. He worked for, I believe, Sterling Heights Township, one or the other, for 20 years during that time also. And he's been doing on his own out of his home office with
You
the
you have someone in mind that's already qualified?
I've talked to someone, yeah.
Okay, good note. Good. Motion
Yeah.
to adjourn.
Sport?
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.